because we will be working also with this Western kind of approach to psyche, to our internal world. I usually use the Jungian lineage, not just Jung alone, but some of his followers that created the system of archetypes and symbols. And the way to connect to our unconsciousness, personal, and then the unconsciousness as a collective or the universal being, we can only communicate, or that unconsciousness communicates with us through a symbolic language, through archetypes, because the language is not a good tool to understand the things that are behind the limit of our brain and rational thinking and our perception through senses. And usually you can see that in dreams or in visions or in mystical experiences, that it's not so clear, like the language of the poems. Even though it can seem to be like a basic language, but if you understand it and open your heart, then you understand what was the meaning of that poem and how deep it is. The same way it works with symbolism and with archetypes. The archetype, what Jung called, is a symbolic pattern or a theme that it's so strong and has been repeated so many times in a human history that it created kind of a pattern that affects your consciousness and your unconsciousness, even though you haven't met them before, because it's something that goes deeper into that collective unconsciousness. And these archetypes and symbols, they play a fundamental role in shaping our thoughts, our feelings, and our behavior, even though we are not aware of them all the time. And there are many of them, and Jung defined some of them that what thought that are the most important ones for our evolution, like persona and shadow, and then that's the shadow work to understand our hidden tendencies. There is anima and animus, or Shiva and Shakti. Yeah, like a male and female principles. There is self with the large S, like my inner deeper soul or essence. Our unity consciousness. There is a hero archetype or warrior archetype, and mother and father archetype, and all of these archetypes, they have kind of a universal meaning, and there are many emotional and feeling qualities attached to every of these archetypes. And some of them I will try to explain how they affect us in a future meetings and lectures that we will talk about, because it's important for our understanding how our mind works, how our consciousness developed, and how we can change some of these patterns, how we behave, how we feel, and how we react to certain types of situations.
He was very smart, wasn't he?
What?
Jung, he was very smart, very clever.
Yeah, he's more philosopher than just a psychologist.
But his IQ is just insane. David, do you know what's his Peterson, the guy that's on TikTok and all that? Do you ever follow him? What's his name?
Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
He talks a lot about Jung. He talks a lot about him, and he follows his. He talks a lot about the archetypes too, and how.
Yeah, true.
I never connected that those were archetypes, but it's a way Yeah, I think it's a way of understanding the connectedness of certain,
Mm.
you know, way we act, like you said, the way we act.
Mhm.
It's a way to make it understandable.
I will then try to explain it on some of these archetypes, how they work and how they affect our behavior. In case they are on their peak, they are energized, they work harmoniously in us, and in case they are in that shadow aspect, that they either have too little of the energy, they don't work too well, or there is too much, and I behave based on that egoistic archetype picture or pattern.
Mm-hmm.
The archetype is kind of an universal, inmate, recurring pattern or the theme in collective unconscious. And it represents the basic human experiences and emotions. You can see it in the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell was talking a lot through that mystical experiences and mystical traditions. These are the um, repeating themes, and you can find them in the stories, in fairy tales.
Yeah.
And what Jung called archetype in these Eastern traditions, and it's called the devas or devis or asuras. And these patterns, the same way, they are just translated into kind of a idol or a statue or a picture to some quality that we can visualize. Uh, so this doesn't mean that Hinduism is polytheistic, like many gods and goddesses, because according to Hinduism and also Buddhism and all these other traditions, there is only one unifying consciousness, one God, one universe, but it has millions of ways to act in the world. And there are different parts of that energy that can be specified according to qualities into the world. And some of these were described in very basic ways through the stories, through the pictures or statues. And we will be working with some of them, like with Durga, with Ganesha, and I will explain you what are the qualities and what is the archetypal meaning of that and why it works inside of our consciousness if we repeat that mantra or if we focus our attention to that pattern. This is one of them. This is Brahma, like the main creator of the universe, or at least this phase of this cycle of the universe. And on the picture, you can see some specific symbols that if you understand them, you then know what they represent and how they can work. Like these four faces, it doesn't mean that this is some kind of a mutant, but it's a symbolic representation of the four books, four Vedas, four knowledges or truths that are revealed in those books. The hands and the gestures that he is doing, he is holding the text of Vedas that represents the wisdom, the evolution of the mind. He has a mala, these beads that if you repeat mantra, you play with the beads, or you are turning the beads. It represents time as the beginning of the manifested universe. That as soon as there starts to be time, there is evolution. In one hand, he holds a spoon that it was used for taking the oil or the ghee and feeding the fire to increase the intensity of the fire. And that means the internal fire of evolution, of transformation. And in another hand, he holds Kamandalu, that's representing the beginning of the world, because it's through the sound that the world started, that the universe become manifested. And Vahana, that's usually there is kind of a vehicle that the god or goddess is driving, and here it's called Vahana, Hamsa. Hamsa means a swan, because it also has a purpose. Swan is the animal that can separate, according to a legend, water from the milk, and that means that you can recognize the truth from the limited truth or untruth, the lie. And Hamsa also represents our default mode network in our brain that we need to change, that we need to override to change these ways of behavior and the ways we perceive the world.
That's amazing.